What up, everybody? Seth Harrison with Actionable Insights here.
Whatley here.
We are here to discuss the new line items that came out in the October Price List Update. Xactimate added about 9 new line items and changed and tweaked a bunch of new ones. So we're going to take a look at what came out, what was added to the Xactimate price list, and kind of how it was intended to be used and applied in the property insurance space. Before we start, I want to say thank you to everybody that engaged with us last week during our sales week. We had a big sales week giveaway. Maria, our in-house client success team, wanted to connect you guys with our resources. And so you had an opportunity and you took advantage of it. You absolutely crushed it, and was very thankful to see that support and appreciation in engaging with our resources, signing up for the Xactimate class coming up next week, which I'm really excited about, Xactimate Estimating and Digital Assets class. This is only the second time we'll do this class, but the first one was rave reviews of a kind of a different curriculum that focuses on the line items themselves and actually setting claims, which needs to be discussed and analyzed, as settling claims in 2020 and beyond is very different than what it was in 2010 in that sense. But you guys engaged with our resources, signed up for memberships on getinsights.org, and we really appreciate it. COVID has challenged every business. Ours as a nonprofit, a lot of our revenue comes from training and traveling. So not being able to engage in training and traveling for 6 months has put a big hurt on Actionable Insights. So it was really nice, and we really appreciate you guys coming out last week and engaging with us, buying our online Actionable Academy courses, and generally investing in us while also investing in yourself. So thank you for that. Really appreciate that. So without further ado, let's jump into these 9 line items that were added. I have here on the left side, Xactimate open with the new line items for October. On the right side, this is the e-service center link from Verisk. This is where you can go find the line items that come out every month. But as you can see on the right side, it's just a big wall of text. So we'd like to add some flavor and discussion to these line items here. Let's start with number 1 at the top here, Whatley. ELS 37WPA, a 37-pin wall receptacle with a 12-inch pigtail, followed by a room controller. What exactly do we got here?
Yeah, so those 2 line items fall in that same suite of hospital-related line items that have been dropping over the summer 2020. And so the 37 pin is just what you see as it relates to a receptacle, and the room controller cord that you control the television on or you call your nurse actually plugs into that 37 pin receptacle. So both of those line items are what you and I refer to as sister line items, and they often drop together as they do in this case.
Yes. Very complimentary. You can see in the pin wall receptacle line item here in the note, it says it excludes the controller, and then they added a line item right next to it that is the controller. So these are sister complementary line items all the way. Let's jump to these roofing additions. We've got 4 new line items for pipe jack flashing, 1 for rubber roofing, 1 for PVC TPO, and then 2 sizes for each, normal and large. And in preparation for this video, you and I were saying, hey, let's pull up the old line items. On the left side here, I have September. And so the September prices and whatnot. These were the pipe jack line items that were generally available in September. And now there are 4 new line items that were added in October. What are your thoughts here when it comes to these line items, application, etc.?
Yeah, so in short, it's similar to how you would look at PLM SUP for supply lines. So you've got the base supply line item. And then beyond that, you have a bunch of specialized supply lines, like for a dishwasher, let's say, or a washer and dryer, and even for a water heater now. And all of those line items that I just mentioned are generally more expensive than the base line item for supply line. And that same and similar logic applies here to the pipe jack. So the takeaway for a restorer is that you want to keep an eye out for your more detailed line items for pipe jacks to the extent that they're warranted. And if I'm an adjuster reviewer, I'm keeping an eye on those that are selecting for, let's say, a copper pipe jack that's pretty obscure, so that's going to draw some attention. So, as an overage or excess potentially. So just keep an eye out for when you have a scenario with a specialized pipe jack, be it neoprene or for rubber roofing or for a PCV installation. These are range from slightly more favorable to considerably more favorable for the restorers. And what they also did here is they broke out average size from large size. And I think that was a great strategic decision because it's always been difficult, especially as a reviewer, Harrison, to like know, was it a 6-inch jack or an 8-inch? Like the type of diameters, it didn't matter what was geometry, property, or otherwise. It was difficult to verify. And just to move from an average to a large size for the pipe jack flashing makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you can see in the additional item information for the large line items here, it says for pipes with diameters of 10 inches or greater.
Yep.
So they simplified it to 10 inches or greater, large. Smaller,
Yep.
normal. So I
Yep.
love it. Yeah, it's nice to have those selections when you come across a pipe jack or just any scenario where things are detailed or customized or different. It's nice to have the option to be able to apply the correct line item with the most appropriate cost. Lastly, our favorite category that comes up every month. They just sprinkle a few new ones in here every time. We've got some cleaning plant stands. So if your plants get burned in the fire, but you still got the stand, you can clean it.
Yeah, I think you said it all.
There it is, baby. Light clean, heavy clean, normal clean. Got to clean those plant stands. All right, let's jump here. I'm going to briefly move October back so I can take a look at some personal property items that were added. There are 10 line items that were added when it comes to personal property. I don't include those in the 9 that we reference when it comes to new structural line items, but you have 10 line items of iPad Pros, iPad Airs, iPad Minis, various inches and sizes. To build on that even further, they took the existing line items that were in Xactimate related to these various equipments and inches and just screen displays and how many gigabytes are available. Look, just giant updates to the iPad-related contents personal property line items so that there's something more reflective of what's available in October of 2020. I mean, Apple continues to improve their products, and so there's a lot of stuff that needs to be updated to reflect what may or may not be lost in a property insurance-related loss. So it's good to see those updates. Let's jump to the structural line items here and the things that were modified. And as you can see here, almost every single one is related to a yield change. There wasn't a ton of additional item information or description changes, but there were a lot of yield changes. So I have 2 Xactimate estimates open here. On the left side is September price lists and September pricing for San Diego. On the right side is October price lists and October pricing. And let's take a look at the first 4 line items here. In the cabinet category code, for the reset activity code for concrete countertop, granite or marble countertop, solid surface countertop, and then the detached and reset version of solid surface and granite countertop, the price for these was all the same, $30 exactly, 30.00. And when you jump over here to the right side and you look at October, all of the pricing has been updated and it's actually been increased. So as I jump into the additional item information here, so we can take a look at these items in more detail, what's happening here, Whatley? What's happened?
Yeah, it's lost a memory, Harrison, whether we've been told this or we've just observed this over the years. But when you've got a line item that's at .00, there's a 99% chance it's what we refer to as a settling line item. And often when a line item is being introduced and they're not sure about the pricing, they'll throw something out there that is close, and then they'll do some more analysis, some more research to refine that pricing over time. And so I think that's what you're seeing here as they updated, really not the price as much as they updated the yield. And so right hand up, what do we know? We know that as the yield goes up, the price goes down. And what happened in this case was actually the inverse. So the yield went down over here, and then the price went up. And that was the adjustment. So essentially, through doing some more research, working with cabinet supply houses, countertop supply houses, the pricing department has determined that it does take a little bit more labor to install these countertops by square footage.
Instead of doing 4.8 resetting or resetting 4.8 countertops per hour, they're saying realistically you can only reset 3.678 of these things. And noted as something gets more difficult to do, it generally becomes more expensive. That inverse relationship between productivity, between yield and price. All right, let's jump now to the concrete pier or footing with post anchor. There was, again, some changes from a $30 price per unit to a 37.5. And really that's generated from the yield right here, 2.5 to 2, saying that it's You can only remove 2 of these in an hour versus 2.5. You have some flashing pipe jack and split boot. So not only is there a slight yield change here from the left to the right, what I want to highlight is actually the additional item information. There was a big change for the split boot pipe jack right here that I want to, there's a whole note in September that was deleted. So I'm going to read this note out loud, and then I want you to talk about what's happened here. The original note in the split boot pipe jack line item is, this removal activity is intended to be used when the pipe jack flashing only is being removed for disposal. If the pipe jack flashing is being removed along with the shingles on the same roof slope, the pipe jack flashing removal would generally be done with the shingle removal line item, and this removal line item would not be needed. Ultimately, it is up to the estimator and or parties involved to determine what line items are appropriate for the specific situation they are estimating. That's gone. What's happening?
This is an unfamiliar pattern. So what do you and I observe every month? They add notes to the
Yes.
lineup for clarity, right? In this particular case, it went a totally different direction, and they deleted a note. And so what does this tell us? Who did this impact? So this is a adjustment that is a bit restore-centric, such that, yeah, somehow somebody made a case, the pricing department conceded that this particular line item can and should exist outside of the removal of that particular elevation. And so the way to address that was essentially to delete that note. And so that's what happened. Boy, that is unfamiliar for us, kind of interesting to observe. Yeah. And since I have the floor, something I wanted to touch on before we get too far ahead, line item there 14, the concrete pier. You know, one thing I don't love, let's make a note to go back and talk to the pricing department about this next month, but that line, like that image is really misleading. So if I'm a adjuster and I'm green, I look at that footing, like that's a full-on footing for a huge deck or maybe more, right? It looks like they're building the Hoover Dam there. But what's important to note is that the image has no synergy with this line item. So this is meant for a 4x4 anchor. So think of like a footing that you'd have for like a pergola in a residential environment, right? No one is demoing that 7,000 pounds of concrete in front of us for $40. Yeah. So it's a totally different application, and I think that particular image is particularly misleading and probably wants an update.
Last line item modification to jump into here is these wood shakes line item. And when you look at the eService Center link, you'll see about 5 line items related to wood shakes or really shake nails and even extended potential here. So when we start to look at this line item, I've only added 2 here to take a look, not all 5. And let's jump into the assembly info. Because often when we see a change in the price or something like it went from $430 in September in San Diego to $447 over here. When we see a change in the price, often we can attribute it to a change in the yield, a change in the supporting events, a change in the labor trade code. But this was a different change that we haven't really seen before. And when you look at the labor component, it's the same. Roofer, 389, 389, roofing felt, simplex, but shake nails. All of these shake nails have changed, specifically this line item being the medium hand split fire resistance per independent material source. What's going on here? Shake nails based on a 50-pound box to shake nails stainless steel based on a 25.
In my estimation, Harrison, the building departments are starting to call for stainless steel nails to the extent that they're still providing space for you to install shake roofs. Not obviously common in fire-prone areas like California anymore, but nobody wants those nails rusting into the shake, right? It looks terrible, and they rust out and actually can be compromised themselves when it starts to lose its head, and then the roof can fall apart. Based on the nails. How do you resolve that? Well, you do stainless steel nails. What's interesting about the price structure is it actually goes up 1,200% between the former at $3 a box versus $21 a box. So interesting to see that they made this adjustment. I think it's born out of what's going on with individual MSA building departments, but it might have just been somebody on the pricing department recognizing that this adjustment was warranted, as that's becoming customary when you're installing shake roofs. Those of you who are still installing shake roofs, please provide some insight. I'm punching in the dark here a bit. I'd love to get your take down below.
But in general, it's really cool for us to see a complete material component change based on the reality of installation and what happens after you install it.
You got to be a hardcore price list nerd to appreciate this as much as you and I do. I'm sure there's a fair amount of these folks that follow us, watch these videos, tuned out after they recognized we've already gone over the 9 new line items that were launched. But this kind of stuff shows you the pricing department is working hard to better their price list in the most granular ways. Just when you think they're not doing a lot, they're doing a lot, and this is a sound expression of that.
Good explanation of that. Let's jump over here to the eService Center link for the final changes here. As you can see, material components were added for the new line items that came out. They've got some modifications here. Minnesota postal code changes. What's up, Minnesota? Check that out. But this was a big one that you and caught our eyes, and we were it's like vague enough that it's worth asking a lot of questions about. Labor supporting events for demolition were modified for new construction labor efficiency. What does that mean?
So ultimately, the pricing department has determined that the same inefficiencies that emerge when you're working in a restoration environment, so that like additional 20 minutes in your supporting events per day, just a lost inefficiency of working in a restoration environment. And often it gives you a little bit more for your planning and deployment and picking up building materials. It was determined that when you're demoing, the same kind of inefficiencies really emerge, whether it's new construction or whether it's typical in a restoration environment. So if you click the new construction box, when you're demoing, the demo line items won't be affected by the increased efficiency that is really observed through the change in the supporting events, which creates the delta between your direct yield and your yield.
Yeah, so that's really important to highlight. There's a lot of new construction is a hot topic these days. Every time we do travel and train, people are bringing up new construction seems to be coming more and more as a request to click and process claims in a new construction environment. So to see that Xactimate and the pricing department is recognizing and realizing that to demo a place, it's still going to be
turbulent. Yeah.
It's still a house. It's still a home, and it's still a property, and it's still going to be demoed in an inefficient restoration way. But if it is a full build up back, that those new construction efficiencies would apply. I love it. All right, coming up in November, it looks like they've given us a little preview, a little sneak peek behind the curtain of what's coming. We got some artificial turf. So what's up, you commercial field application people? We got some interior bond doors, some detaching and resetting of office cubicles, which
that one we need, man. I've been looking forward to that one.
As well as some 24 gauge agricultural metal roofing panels down below. So curious to see what comes of that in November. But hey, today it's October. We're actually recording this on Thursday, October 1st. We wanted to jump on this thing as soon as it came out, as our schedules allowed. So we'll hopefully get this out to you, I think, Monday. Reminder, if you have a chance, you should join us. If you think that we've got an idea about this Xactimate software and we might be able to teach you a few things, we've got an Xactimate Estimating and Digital Assets class, embracing Xactimate and Matterport, coming up next week, Tuesday, October 6th through October 8th. Whatley and I are always curious as to what feedback you have about the new line items. What line item are you excited to use in this October price list? Do you have other ideas as to what line items should be added? We have a line item request form on our website that generates a lot of the data that we use when we discuss these omissions and clarifications with Xactimate in our price list calibration meeting. So all in all, this is an exciting month in October. 9 new line items, bunch of changes to some contents line items, and saw some line items that went from .00 to settle to something that was more realistic to reality. So this is fun. We will see you guys back in November and kind of explore the 4 line items that they've suggested here, as well as whatever else they come up with.